Felt great. I cried.
Surreal.
It was amazing.
It was the most intense setting I've ever been in.
The relief, the joy. I went through a billion emotions in seconds for like an hour.
I wanted to form a union because workers at Whole Foods are making the company tens of billions of dollars every year, and we're not making a living wage.
You can't pay people like starvation wages and think that they should just tolerate that.
We want to form a union because we need protection. Amazon, since taking over Whole Foods, is finding every last thing that they possibly can to take away from us.
The problems that Whole Foods started having was the loss of labor primarily. They were squeezing a lot of work out of very few people. A lot of people call it like the Amazonification of workplaces, and that's like very true. You know, like the place that I started working for 8 years ago lost the soul, and I got to see like the last glimmers of that flame kind of like get snuffed out.
Everything from team member growth and happiness to customer obsession that they love to tout has kind of been lost in the buying out of Amazon.
I realized very early on, my first paycheck, that just working there at Whole Foods was not going to pay my bills.
You're just treated like a robot. The rate that they want you to work at is unattainable for pretty much everybody, but you're still nagged by managers to pick up the pace, stop talking.
I was working at every department and giving them all I had. They was throwing me in the meat department, produce department. I learned how to do everything in the store. And you know, I really was thinking about moving up. And I think one day I gave them a 10-hour shift. We didn't have nobody to close for me. I did that for them. And then I did the produce load, which was lifting boxes in the cooler. And then I remember I came out on the floor the last 10 minutes of my shift to say something to a coworker, and you know, they saw me talking. She told my boss came over and said, yeah, they don't want you working in any other department no more. And I was like, just like that, I said, what happened to all the help? And then my shifts got deleted. I told them about what was done to me wrongfully. They're in the leadership office making jokes, laughing. You could do that to anybody. You could just take their shifts away, take their money away. To them, it was nothing. You know, they go about their day, they go home, but to you, that's everything. To have that type of power over somebody in the way they live is not how it's supposed to be, and that's not okay.
Those are the biggest problems that I've been having. Just understaffing, not access to full benefits for every employee, and we just don't make enough.
I've seen a lot of people get hurt and can't afford to, even I've seen people get sick and they work in the load in the cooler, and it's like you get sick, but you can't go to the doctors afford an appointment because you're scared about what will happen, how much money you gotta pay.
It's more often than not that most team members have either personally or know somebody that's been hurt on the job. And it's just sad to see like that constant revolving door that is when you have team members that are only there for a couple months. They're like, this is way too much, this is too much stress.
You're expected to do so much more than you are physically capable of, on top of needing to like maintain and clean the department, and the stress and the burnout and the wear and tear on the body caused by just requiring the constant work is not sustainable for them or for you.
There's so many people that I know who are my age who are burnt out, and I'm 32 years old, and they're burnt out and they never want to work in the kitchen again. And it's because of this model of we're just going to turn them and burn them, and they don't care. They just don't care.
Running a business like that cannot last forever. They might make short-term profits, but at a certain point, workers won't deal with it anymore. They will have to take matters into their own hands, and that's what we're doing. We're organizing to force the company to do something that they're not going to do by themselves.
I met Ben and we agreed on a lot of things. And I think from there, it was just talking to my coworkers.
So it was about 5 of us only. And we decided to meet at a coffee shop, and we talked about our problems and stuff like that. And then through the connections that we had, because, you know, all of us had our own connections, we talked to other people who had problems. An idea, you know, because it started with an idea, became reality. 5 people turned to 20, 20 people turned to 25, 25 turned to 40, 40 turned to 50.
So that was the main conversation. It was like, how to get information out, how do we include everyone, and also how do we combat some of the tactics that we know are going to come our way.
The company's initial response was, oh my God, what's happening? They didn't know. The people who started it did such a good job keeping it under their noses that they didn't know until we filed.
They started bringing in people from different stores. They started bringing in bosses from stores, and I got people saying, I'm from Florida, how you doing? My name is this. I'm from Jersey, how you doing? My name is this. And to asking you how you doing every 20 seconds.
It's really nice when someone asks me how I'm doing one time. But when it's 4 times, I'm like, what do you want me to say? You can give me candy and treats and cookies, but I know in your other hand, there's like a knife. You know what I mean?
Whole Foods does not want us to have a union. They made that very clear. The union busting was all the time, at every corner and opportunity that they got.
And it was, let's bombard them with a bunch of mis and disinformation that's going to make them second guess their choices.
There was posters all over the break room, the back room, the bailers, anywhere that a team member was at, there was also a poster to go along with it.
When we got closer, to the vote, it started becoming aggressive. And all them smiles and all them snacks started changing. You had them pulling coworkers to the side and blatantly lying to them, separating them, telling them to vote no.
But what they didn't understand is that we had people like me and Ben and Ed and Mace who were like, they're lying. They're lying to you. They're not telling you the truth. And we were saying it out loud and we were saying it in front of them. And we were putting them on the spot and making them and forcing them to tell us the truth. Through all the union busting tactics that I feel like they were using against us, I feel like our strongest thing was banding together and actually sharing the information.
Laughing at how desperate it all seemed, because you could tell that they were scared, they were desperate and doing everything they could.
It felt really good to kind of get to know more of my coworkers and realize we're all kind of in the same situation, but we're starting to talk about it now.
It really is about having trust in your coworkers and being able to go to each other with all the things that they tried to throw at us.
We built a connection with each other. It was deeper than just being a coworker. Throughout the years that I worked with them, we learned about each other's personal lives, our families, what we was going through, and that's how we did it. Because $1 billion can't buy trust, and I think that's the biggest thing of why we won, trust.
So the vote took place on Monday. I was working that day. It was a eerily calm feeling that day, because I told myself the night before, no matter we win or lose, this is something that's very unprecedented. A lot of people haven't even gotten this far. And I saw the faces of people coming in and I saw how excited they were to vote. Whether it was a yes or no, people were actually excited to come in and vote.
It was the most intense setting I've ever been in. Everybody from, Amazon and you in there with the UFCW and the people that you've been fighting with the past year and a half. And then you get to the end of it and you don't know, I didn't want to see the score. And then somebody whispered to me, we won. And that feeling was I can't even explain it. You know what I mean? It was like a dream.
Immediately when we realized we won, it was just like a bunch of silent hugs because the count was still going on.
The relief, the joy, I went through 1 billion emotions in seconds for like an hour.
It felt great. Just being able to celebrate with my friends and my coworkers was really good because, we worked really hard and it was really stressful. And it's great when you struggle with people and it comes out in your favor. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I like to frame it as this was just the first hurdle in the marathon, and now the next steps are getting them to the table.
I want respect at work. Most of my coworkers are extremely good at what they do, care about their work, and want to do a good job, but we're not treated with respect by the company.
Better work conditions, not be able to be fired at will. This company can get rid of you whenever they want. Protection, everybody wants protection.
A union could really bring the culture back to Whole Foods as far as it being very employee-centric and very employee-forward. And we have a say-so in how this place runs. Because if I'm being honest, the reason I love Whole Foods is not because of Whole Foods. The reason I love Whole Foods is because of the people that work there.
It's easy to pick on the one company that's unionized, right? We're the only person that's unionized, all eyes is on us, right? But if we start coming together and do it together, this place here does it, this place here does it, this place here does it, this place here does it. It gets really hard for Amazon to be the bullies that they are.
I want other Whole Foods workers to know that it is absolutely possible to go up against an enormous company like Whole Foods and like Amazon. We just showed that it's possible. It's very difficult and it's intimidating, but I want other Whole Foods workers to be inspired by this, join in with us.
The gate is open, and we're gonna hold it open. Get in, get organized, and yeah, we can do this. Amazon, Whole Foods is not, it's not some like mythical god. It can be beat.
You know, we don't gotta accept this anymore. This doesn't have to be something we have to accept. This doesn't have to be something we have to be okay with, because it's not okay. And you're not the only ones tired. I'm tired of it too. Everybody's tired of it. You don't gotta be scared of what these companies are gonna do. You don't gotta be scared of what they gonna take away, because they can't take us all away. You know what I mean? And without us, the stores don't run. Remember that. We run the stores. So, you know, I want y'all to, you know what I mean? I want y'all to come together and do this. We're gonna come together. Don't be scared. We got you. Promise.